Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. This is the fourth and final episode in a series on validation that began with episode 198, which you can find at reconnectionclub.com/198. In today's episode, I'll address the topic of validating estranged adult children specifically and answer 3 frequently asked questions about validation. Along the way, I'll tackle a number of common obstacles you may run into and how to manage them. Reconnection Club members in my validation workshops are often eager to learn and practice validating their estranged adult children. Some of them have been asked to be more validating by those very children in the past. But as I mentioned in the last episode, validating an estranged adult child should be considered a graduate-level project. It's hard enough to validate when someone's experience has nothing to do with you, but when they're expressing negative feelings about you, especially if their version of events doesn't match up with yours, it becomes next to impossible. But I know you might be tempted to try it anyway, so here are 5 tips for validating adult children who are estranged. Number 1, listen to episode 193, The Truth of the Matter. That episode will help you stay limber in the face of competing truths. Number 2, get some wins under your belt first by practicing with easier people. Try to reach the conscious competence stage I described in episode 37 before making the attempt. You can find that at reconnectionclub.com/37. Number 3, validate estranged adult children only when you feel calm, centered, and strong. You don't need to sit down for an extended conversation. If you're well practiced and in the right frame of mind, you can find little ways to attempt validation on the fly. Number 4, expect unpleasant surprises and decide ahead of time not to argue or debate what might feel like unfounded claims. There may come a time for debate later, but during validation is not the right time. Number 5, forgive yourself if you don't think you did a good job. Validation is hard, even for trained professionals, let alone in a troubled and very important personal relationship. Lower the bar. If, in trying to validate your adult child, you end up listening more deeply than they're used to, that is a win. Let me turn now to validating in a wider context, since most of your practice will be with people other than your estranged adult child. In episode 198, I briefly mentioned the problem of bringing up difficult feelings during validation. Frequently asked question number 1, therefore, is, what if what comes up when you validate is something overwhelmingly painful? Isn't it unkind to intentionally incite painful emotions in someone? Well, the feelings are already there inside the person. We don't create feelings through validation. Remember, we identify what we find, or we encourage the person to name their own feelings that are already there. Until you come along looking to validate them, the person may be alone with those painful feelings. So you're letting them know they're not alone, that you understand and accept the way they feel. It can take courage and possibly preparation to validate feelings wholeheartedly. If you're not comfortable with sadness or anger, for example, there may be some foundational work to do first. Because your discomfort with those emotions by itself, unfortunately, can come across as invalidating. I wrote my constructive wallowing book to help guide the personal work of learning how to face and manage difficult emotions with empathy and kindness, and also to answer questions like, what if I don't want to go there? What should I do if someone starts crying? I think you'll gain more confidence in those areas through constructive wallowing. Frequently asked question number 2, what if I can't figure out what they feel? Well, great question, because that is a distinct possibility. Most people aren't experts at labeling their own emotions and tend to communicate facts, opinions, or accusations rather than pure feelings. So if you're looking for the emotions in our society, you'll often have to dig for them. And you might not get to the exact emotion, and that's not a failure. your sincere attempt to understand the person's experience, your willingness to explore it with them, and to accept them and their emotions, those are the gifts you're offering through validation, not perfect accuracy. Frequently asked question number 3. What about small children? If we do nothing but validate their feelings all day, how will they learn to live in a society filled with other people and rules and two-way conversations? Well, first of all, we don't just validate children's feelings all day. Validation is not the only form of communication, remember, nor the only task of parenting or guidance. My personal view is that children seem to learn mostly by observation. That's consistent with something called social learning theory. Children observe first and maybe most closely their parents and families, but also teachers, neighbors, store clerks, and others. If the adults they're exposed to behave with respect, civility, and reasonableness toward children and other adults, then children learn respect, civility, and reasonableness pretty easily. Throughout childhood, kids get lots and lots of modeling of how to behave from their environments. But what they typically don't see very much is validation. Think about it. When you were a child yourself, how often were your feelings validated? How often did you witness other people being validated? How often did you witness invalidating responses like look on the bright side, fix it, or let it go? I don't think it's possible or necessary to validate a child's every emotion, but if you consider all the invalidating messages that children are exposed to in their formative years, it is absolutely critical, in my view, to validate small children whenever we possibly can. It helps them develop social, emotional, and communication skills and may give them a leg up on solving relationship problems when they're older. Receiving sufficient validation guides children toward more fulfilling relationships in adulthood with people who are emotionally available. For those of us who grew up without much validation, it's not too late to put things right. As long as we're breathing, we can add new skills and improve on existing ones. It's never too late. If you're tired, rest. But when you're ready, there's much more to learn about validation, and luckily, many sources of information out there. For a few, check out the links in the show notes for this series. If you're a Reconnection Club member, please post your comments and questions about validation in the general discussion forum, and keep an eye out for my next validation workshop. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.